how do you see digital changing finance? I mean, you are in one such a company yourself. Do you see banks looking very different? Do you see banks getting dwarfed and something else taking its place? How can you draw the future for us, say 10 years down?
Yeah, if you look at what has happened in the last 3 years, the future is very clear to me. That is, the digital revolution is overtaking various sides of various aspects of the financial services business. You look at broking, broking has gone digital. Asset management is about to go digital. I would think general insurance, well on the way there. When it comes to life insurance and banks, not fully. In banks, all payment side has gone digital. So it's basically you are protected by a moat, a regulatory moat for good. You have to be cautious with public money. But other than that, you're getting chipped away at the margin. So what do? Either you reinvent yourself or the pressure on regulation to basically force you to change is going to be so much. Either you change or entry of other players will happen. Okay. Luckily, things are not as difficult as they could have been, say, 4 or 5 years back. Because if you go by what I said earlier, basically fit hai kya, free hai kya, then I think you have got solutions today within these two ambits. There are platforms today available, at least for financial services, which are completely plug and play. And it's end to end. What I would have had, let's say, 20, 30, 35 systems working together and making them work together to run a bank. Today is one integrated system out of the box. You pay on a SAS basis and it is ready to go. And the cost is, what is it, 1/10, 1/20th of what you are spending today. So a bank with courage, I think, can very quickly remap itself and get into the new digital. And otherwise, I think they will not be able to go.
So the banking system is not challenged by fintech?
It's not challenged only because of the regulatory moat. If these players were allowed, let's say, a whole host of things that otherwise banks are allowed, then the situation would have been different. Maybe rightly so, I said, because they have to prove themselves. So in course of time, that will happen.
Let me come to the ship that you are navigating at this point in time, or that you are heading at this point in time. Infrastructure finance, NABFID really. At the moment, the fisc is under pressure all over the world to bring down the deficit which was incurred during the COVID years. So while government capex, central government capex is doing very well at this point in time, it is still, I just did the math before I came here, it is along with the states 4% of GDP and about 12% of total capex in the country. So it can't move the ship alone. Fisc can't fund infrastructure alone. How do you see this happening? Banks are still financing retail. We really don't have infra financing.
Yeah, banks, of course, last 3-4 years are also financing infrastructure, which is, you can say, is it appropriate or not is a different question, because they were basically saying they're doing term transformation, but really not doing term transformation. You were resetting the loans every so often, and carries, you carry then a risk in your books and in your borrowers' books. But that I leave it to the CFOs of those borrowing companies and their risk committees, if I'm sure they have one. And on the bank side, similarly. So that's a different story. But the real providers of funding for this opportunity and need that the country has will be the long-term savers. It is the insurance companies, the pension funds. So that is going to be the route. And as you see, the change is already visible. If you look at bank growth in deposits, maybe just around double digits, 10 to 11, I think it's not an accident. There are other, I think, sources coming up, which probably the saver looks at giving him a better fit, better interest rate, and so on. And those are growing. So particularly is insurance and other long-term type. So you're getting into a situation which we actually did not have in 1996 when we had to convert to a bank. That is, there was one basic provider of long-term money, that was LIC, and all others were short-term providers who gave you long-term money. But today the situation is different. So you have these long-term players, plus you have access to the market itself, not only for NABFID, but for people with a track record from, say, the corporate infrastructure sector. So I see over the next 5 years, multiple sources of funding opening up through NAPFID and other long-term sources, right, to provide that bridge as we go along. A. B, I think something important we need to keep in mind as to what has happened with, say, NHAI. It's a brilliant story in positivity that NHAI created those assets which PPPs could not create. Now you have implemented those, so the implementation risk is over, the operating initial risk is over, and now in a de-risk state they go to market. And they market money directly from the marketplace. So I would think that NHAI now is a perpetually funded machine. They don't need to either rely on the government nor on NAPFID. If they need to put those assets in the market, they do it through an InvIT structure and out. Now imagine, like NHAI, in almost all areas of infrastructure, various private companies do the same thing. They may not yet be ready today, but in another year or two, they should be ready to do this. For a variety of assets which are with a clear track record and positive cash flow, I'm sure there will be savers. And last time I interacted with Mr. Gadkari, he was saying that I will now make monthly interest payment directly into a bank account on the InvIT, the bond. So, with this sort of innovation possible today because of technology, so far banks had a field day, but now any other market participant can do this. So I think in a lateral way, a lot of these problems will get resolved without our realizing it. Like UPI solved a lot of problems.
Yes, of course. So that's the last question. What do you think? What is the next coming from NAPFID? Should we be prepared for a headline?
No, NAPFID headline, you should talk to the CEO. That's it.
All right. Pleasure speaking with you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Kamath. We come with grave doubts about the disruptions to the economy, to the business ecosystem. But with 50 years of spearheading several ships, all those look eminently handleable. Thank you very much for infusing this optimism.